Alright, a very warm welcome back everyone. Today I want to talk about parallel compression, and parallel compression is a pretty advanced technique that you can use to make your arrangements denser, louder, and probably also sounding better. And the only thing, essentially the only thing that you are going to need for this is a second bus and a compressor. I'm going to break this down in just a few seconds, but bear with me on this one because I first want to talk about how you can use this and why you should use this. I've talked about loudness and making your sound or making your signals denser, but this is of course not the only option that you can use when you're dealing with parallel compression. Usually I would use parallel compression on a complete bus or a complete signal, but of course you can also utilize this if you just want to take care of some parts of your frequencies, for example the mids or the lows. It makes more sense to do this on the lows, but you have to be very careful with this because the low frequencies usually tend to sound a little bit muddy if you're not doing stuff correctly. So you have to be very cautious how you apply this parallel compression technique. So enough talking. I'm going in the mixing console and I'm just showing you how I routed this, and I'm showing you two different options. The first one I'm not showing you prepared, but the second one I will. So parallel compression is a technique that is applied on the second bus. So you basically take your signal and route this out on the second bus and then apply the compression there. You can see here that I have my pre-master track because I'm dealing with a mastering arrangement here. I have my parallel compression and I have an aggregation group. So what happens is my pre-master signal first gets routed into the aggregation group. And from this aggregation group, you can see we have mid-side processing here. That is not that important, but we have a post-fader sent to our parallel compression group, which is this one, which essentially means that all of my inserts that are present on my pre-master will also be present on my parallel compression bus, but the inserts I'm applying here will be presented after all of these inserts have been gone through, which makes your whole arrangement make sense in a way that the stuff that you are going to compress and bring back in with your original signal will sound exactly the same as it sounded before, just with some compression applied. The second option you can think of is basically omitting all of these inserts and doing the parallel compression before you're actually mastering your project, which would mean that you are taking your pre-master signal, put this, for example, on another group, maybe not aggregation in this regard. From this group, you go to the parallel compression bus, and you send the signal from the dry signal from your group out to another group, where you then apply all of this processing that you have here. So, which essentially means that your parallel compression will be applied before you're actually mastering your project in such a way. But in this case, I went for the mastering first and then applying the parallel compression, just so it makes more sense with some sort of finger quotes in the arrangement. So these are the two options, and now we are going to take a look at how this actually sounds. I'm going to bring up the lower zone here. We are going to listen to this part of the arrangement, and I'm going to bring the parallel compression in and out, and you are going to hear what this sounds like. So this is on, now we are off. And what you can hear, I think, is that especially the drums get a little bit denser in the process of applying this parallel compression. And this is basically due to the fact that everything is compressed pretty heavily and then brought into the arrangement. So if we look into our mixing console, we are not talking about all of these inserts, but we are talking about this parallel compression compressor that is applied here. You can see, in this case, I've loaded a preset. In this case, the parallel compression preset. And what you see is that you have a ratio that is pretty high. In this case, 10:1. And we have a signal that is then compressed in this manner, as you can see in all of these FabFilter plugins. And if I'm now playing back the signal again, you actually see what's happening. So we have on our parallel compression bus, we have some pretty high compression going on, in this case 22 decibels, which is already quite much. And you see that all of these signals are meshed together pretty extremely. And what comes out is then a complete like squashed signal, so to say, which you can then bring in back to your arrangement. And in this case, I've done so with a very low amount, so in this case minus 12.8 decibels. If we're just listening to this signal alone, this is what the parallel compression would sound like. And I think I have to raise the volume here. And you can actually hear, so the ducking is not happening because of my voice now, but you can actually hear how much the compressor is firing in order to squash all of this together. So, and what you also see here in this side chaining is that we do not take care of all of these low frequencies. So all of these low frequencies below 34 Hertz are not brought into the compression technique, which means that our compressor only reacts to all of these frequencies above here. So, which is, I've done this because these low frequencies are very powerful, so they can ruin your compression. So in this case, I don't want to have them in there, so I filtered them. So yeah, of course. So this is how you could apply parallel compression, and the techniques can either be that you use this on your low frequencies or on your complete frequency spectrum, or even on high frequencies only. And of course, this makes the frequencies you are talking about much more prominent in your arrangement. In this case, we've seen that the drums got a little bit more prominent, but of course, we are talking about a mastering project here. You can also apply this in mixing sessions, especially when you're talking about drums and bass. To get them fit into the arrangement, you can use this parallel compression technique in order to make the kick, for example, hit a little bit harder, or the bass hit a little bit harder if you have many more elements in your mix, so you want them to stand out. This is also a very popular technique that you can use there, and it's actually pretty easy to do. Of course, you can also use your pre-master in this case and copy this on a second track, so duplicate the track and then copy this there. But I've not done this here because I feel if I have to copy my track and I'm actually doing some changes to my arrangement, so in this case, for example, if I'm applying direct off-bank processing, these are changes that I had to, or I would have to copy as well to the other track. So this is why I went with the send effects in order to set these parallel compression buses up, and I think this is the better option than just to duplicate the track and then duplicate your signals as well. And I think this is a quick overview of how you can use parallel compression and what it actually does for you. So it basically makes your arrangement louder and hit a little bit harder without doing any sort of intense inserts or intense post-processing in this manner.